Welcome to episode number 2 of Joe versus the Bots. Today, I want to talk about tournament structure sheets. Every poker tournament that you play will have a structure sheet, and it's actually one of the biggest differences between cash poker games and live tournaments, that there is a set of rules and a specific one little page or sometimes two-page PDF that dictates how the entire tournament or the entire time that you are playing poker will go. I like tournament structure sheet reviews, or I like to review a tournament structure sheet before a tournament because, number one, information is power. Poker is a mental game. It is not a physical game. It is a mental game. It is sometimes even referred to as psychological warfare. So in order for you to be at your best, in order for me to be at my best, I like to review the tournament structure sheet that I'm going to be playing in advance. I want to not memorize the entire thing. There's no need for that whatsoever, but there are some key pieces of information that you'll want to know in advance, such as how many starting units you're going to have, roughly when our break's going to happen, and roughly when the end of the tournament or the end of the first or second day will be. When I'm playing poker, I do not want to expend any unnecessary mental energy in trying to figure stuff out. I don't want to sit there at the poker table in a tournament trying to read my opponents, trying to see if my strategy is working, trying to figure out what bet sizing I want to use or if I want to call this player. I don't want to be doing all of that and then having on top of all of that to think about, well, what's going to happen in this tournament? How many people make the money? When does day one end? Is there a break after this level? These are common questions that happen literally all the time and not something that I want to be wondering or thinking about. Again, I don't want to spend any mental energy in doing that. I want to play a tournament with as much information as I can beforehand, so I can be at my best. Some people might need a drink before they play. Some people can just roll out of bed and just show up and be at their best. Everybody's different. Everybody's brain and mind are different. My particular situation is that I like to know in advance what it is that I'm getting into, what a rough idea of the structure looks like, and be at my best by having the most knowledge up front. Some people have never even seen a tournament structure sheet. So what I want to do for this episode, show a few examples of some tournament structure sheets that are out there that are current tournaments. 2 of them are current tournaments. Actually, one just happened. One is the World Series of Poker main event. We'll look at that structure sheet. And then the Lucky Hearts Poker Open 2025 main event happening here in a few weeks. This is January 7, 2025. And that, so I believe next week actually is when this tournament takes place. So let's take a look right away at one of the tournament structure sheets. This is a tournament that I've actually played in the past. I've actually cashed in this tournament once. I haven't had many opportunities to play it, but I actually think this is a great structure and a great format for a multi-day tournament. This is out of the Palm Beach Kennel Club, the $300 multi-flight, 100,000 guaranteed prize pool. So right away, a structure sheet will tell you what the buy-in is and what the guarantee is. You would be surprised. Maybe you won't be surprised, but I am always at least a little surprised that there are players that I will play with sitting next to them or at the same table or at other tables where I can overhear their conversations. And the question is, well, what's the buy-in? How many chips do you get? Is it 100? Is it 100,000 guaranteed? Is there a guarantee? Is there a day 2? All of these questions can be answered in any time beforehand, before the tournament actually starts. Again, mental energy that does not need to be spent thinking or figuring stuff out on the fly. Everybody's got a phone these days. You could even download the file, the PDF. You could even have it on a Chrome tab or on a Safari tab on your iPhone as you walk in. Or you could do what I do, which is just take a quick look, a quick glance, and it actually will help you determine if you even want to play in the tournament. In today's poker environment, there are a lot of tournaments to choose from. You can use the tournament structure sheets to figure out, oh, okay, I like the amount of chips, I like the levels, I like the length of the levels. It's a day one, or it's a 1 day versus a multi-day versus whatever format. You can make a better decision about which tournament you want to play by just taking a look at it in advance. They're all published. They're all on different websites or different apps. So there should be no problem in being able to view this for anybody who wants to play in a tournament. Some of the things that I look for in a tournament structure sheet, well, right off the bat, the number of starting units. And I will say that the Palm Beach Kennel Club multi-flight $300 buy-in tournament has an excellent starting stack. 40,000 units. 40,000 units. So the typical low-stakes tournament buy-in, anywhere from $100 to $400, will typically have 12,000, 15,000, maybe 20,000, maybe 25,000 if it's a special monster stack or deep stack tournament. So for the $300 tournament at Palm Beach Kennel Club to have 40,000 units, that is really, really attractive. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people play this event whenever they run it every month. So 40,000 units. If you look over to the right-hand side of this structure sheet where every level is displayed, every big blind, every small blind, every break, when the end of registration is, the first level, level 1, you start at 1, 2, and 2. So $100 small blind or 100 chip small blind, 200 big blind, 200 big blind ante. With 40,000 units, that means you have 200 big blinds as your starting stack. And you can register late, as you can with every tournament. So by the time that registration ends, which is at the end of level 8 in this particular situation, level 9 starts at the 1,500 blind level. You still have, if I can do some quick math in my head, is that 25 big blinds or 30 big blinds? Something like 25 big blinds at the end of registration, which is still a lot. 25 big blinds in a poker tournament may not seem like a lot. In a cash game, it's definitely not a lot. But in a tournament, especially in the middle and later stages of it, 25 big blinds can be a lot. You could even be one of the table chip leaders with 25 big blinds, depending on how deep you are running or how late into the tournament you are. So 40,000 starting units. This tournament structure even tells you what the color of chip denominations will be, that they have a blue 500 chip and a yellow 25,000 chip. I really love that Palm Beach Kennel Club does this because I, for example, play in different venues. Different properties will have different color chips. For example, the Seminole Hard Rock, the $500 chip is kind of like a purplish chip. The yellow $25,000 chip that the Palm Beach Kennel Club has, well, that's a big blue chip at the Hard Rock and some other places. So I really like that they even have this. Just a little nugget of information that maybe sits in your subconscious as the tournament is progressing. So $300 buy-in, registration at the end of level 9. All of this stuff is pretty standard information that you'll find on any sheet. Blind levels, that is the next big piece, important piece of information that I like to look at, and that actually helps me decide what tournament I want to go play. The starting units, and then the blind levels. And in this one, 30-minute levels. I hear people say, 30-minute levels is a turbo. I don't really care about it. I'm just going to play super aggressive and just rip my stack in whenever I can. After playing online on Ignition Casino for as long as I've been doing, especially over this last year, 30 minutes feels like an eternity. 30 minutes is more than enough of a length of a level in a live tournament for you to be comfortable. There are actual turbos that have 20 and even 15-minute levels. You will feel the difference if you play that versus a 30-minute level tournament. And on day 2, 40-minute levels, which is amazing. 40-minute levels feels like you were there forever. It really takes the edge off, is the biggest thing that I notice with these level lengths. You're not feeling under the gun, no pun intended, because there is an under the gun position, but you're not feeling under pressure to have to make a decision because time is running out and the blinds are just going to keep going up. They will be going up, but at a much slower rate. So the water level, if you want to think of it that way, will rise slower. And it just makes you feel when you are playing that you have more time and you can maybe be more conservative and last a little bit longer and run a little bit deeper. So what a great tournament, by the way. 40,000 units, multi-day, 100,000 guaranteed, 30-minute levels. You can see the levels on the right-hand side. You'll have 25 big blinds by the end of registration. Day 1 of a tournament like this, by the way, will probably finish somewhere, if I'm going to scroll down here on this sheet, somewhere around level maybe 15, 16, maybe even level 17. I think the last variation of this tournament ended with level 16, so at the 4-8 level. Sometimes it ends earlier than that. Some tournaments end at around their level 13 or their level 10, around 3,000 big blind or maybe even 2,500 big blind. So plenty of play, plenty of room to maneuver, to strategize, to outsmart, outthink, and outlast your opponents. That is the name of the game, after all, in tournament poker, is to outlast your opponents. So there's all other kinds of information on here. If you just were to read down all of these bullet points, there are 16 different paragraphs here of information. You have the break designations on the right-hand side. You can see every 4 levels there's going to be a break. You are not in the money at the start of or at the when you're in day 1. You have to make day 2 to be in the money. That is another key factor to know. That is another question that comes up all the time. Are we getting paid today? Do we have to make day 2 to make the money? You will hear, if you play live tournaments, that question come up all the time. Literally every tournament, there are probably 3 or 4 or 5 people that will say, hey, are we in the money in day 1? Do we get paid on day 2? Do we take 12%? Do we take 10%? Do we take 15%? Is it 8%? All these questions can be easily answered and addressed well before the tournament even starts. In this tournament, they take 10%, which is pretty standard. 10% of the field getting paid is pretty standard. Sometimes it's 12.5%. We'll see an example on Ignition where you'll see it is an even higher percentage of the entries that get paid. So another point of deciding, hey, I want to play this tournament. What do I need to do? How many people do I need to outlast, or what percentage of the field do I need to outlast to be in the money? Because that's, of course, what it's all about. One more note on this tournament before I show another example. This tournament, and not every casino or not every property does this, they allow what they call the best bag forward to move on to day 2. So in other words, you can cash twice. You can play multiple flights and bag multiple flights. Let's say you have 650,000 going into day 2, and you qualify on the day 1A, which is a Thursday or a Friday morning. You could play the next flight, get maybe 125,000 and make day 2. You'll cash for both, but when you come back for day 2, your 125,000 chip stack will be put off to the side. I believe those chips just come out of play entirely, and you will be using your 625,000 chips that was your best performance on day 1, and you will use that moving forward. So not every tournament does this. Usually tournaments say, hey, if you make the money and you want to play another flight, you have to forfeit your previous bag. Not with Palm Beach Kennel Club. So again, another reason why many players decide to go and take a shot at this tournament. I wish I was one of them, but unfortunately I couldn't this weekend. But I will be taking my live shot here on Friday at the Seminole Hard Rock in one of the Lucky Heart Poker Open events. Speaking of, let me flip over here and show another example. This is the main event. This is the main event of the Lucky Hearts Poker Open tournament. 4 times a year, the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino run a major tournament series. Lucky Hearts Poker Open usually happens in January. Then we have the Poker Showdown. That's around March, April timeframe. The signature series, or the flagship series, the Seminole Hard Rock Poker Open, is right after the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. Usually this is run August, September timeframe. More August, I think, is when they early to mid-August. And then the Rock and Roll Poker Open, usually around Thanksgiving, so around November/early December. 4 times a year, they will have these major tournament series. I believe 2 or 3 of them are for World Poker Tour titles. So the main events will actually be a World Poker Tour championship that is on the line. This Lucky Hearts Poker Open, I don't believe, is one of them. I think we would see the Lucky Hearts, the World Poker Tour logo on this structure sheet somewhere. But still, a major, prestigious tournament that you dream of winning. I dream of winning something like this pretty much every day. $2 million guaranteed prize pool. That's what we're talking about. $3,500 buy-in. One of these days, we're going to do a vlog where we talk about the buy-in versus the guarantee ratio. So $3,500, if you have $3,500, or if you can win a satellite, because they run satellites all the time, go on their website, SeminoleHardRockPokerOpen.com. You'll see all of the schedule for all of the satellites, all the ways you can win your way in, which a lot of people do. Or if you have $3,500 and if you can afford that, if it's within your bankroll, you can go ahead and fire away. They even allow a re-entry. So if you have $7,000 or maybe $10,500, you can fire multiple bullets into this event. But $3,500 to get in. This tournament structure sheet shows the levels right up front and then some of the information below that. Sorry if it's very hard to read, but I'll just point out some of the highlights. Some of the highlights include 1 hour levels. I can't even describe to you what a 1 hour level feels like. It feels like you are there forever. You're almost wishing, God, I wish that the levels would just update themselves already. Just let's move on to the next level. It's so long. You have so much time to really think through your decisions. You really feel like you could be there for days. And in fact, this is a 4-day tournament. There are a few day ones. There's a day 1B on Sunday, there's a day 2 on Sunday, day 3, and then a day 4. 60-minute levels for day 1, and sometimes day 2. This particular tournament, when it reaches the final 24 players, gets to 90-minute level. So you have an hour and a half of time per level. And you do need that time. It does feel like it's taking forever when you're sitting in one of these long level tournaments, but you're happy when you're in a hand and you have a decision and there's plenty of time on the clock. You don't feel like you're under pressure to have to make a quick decision because the level is running out and the blinds are increasing. That's the nice thing about these long levels. The other thing that's nice about this tournament, you get 50,000 starting units with blinds starting at 1-2. So you start here with 250 big blinds right away on level 1. And here in this tournament, there's a 90-minute dinner break after level 6. So again, you can plan your dinner. That's the great thing about these tournament structure sheets. You can even plan when you're going to have something to eat, or when you're going to need to make a phone call, or let's say you have an errand to run. You have an hour and a half to do it. That you can just do it, and you can plan this in advance. So if this tournament starts at 12, I already know right off the bat, first 2 levels, 2 hours, that's 2 o'clock. Then 4 levels, that's 4 o'clock. Then 6 levels, 6 o'clock, with 2 15-minute breaks, 6:30. So dinner here will be at 6:30, and you come back to play at 8. To me, this is actually one of the reasons why I actually love playing tournaments versus cash games. The entire day is sort of planned for you. You don't really have to think, well, I'm going to play at this time. Then I'm feeling hungry right now. Let me just go and take a break. Oh, now I want to do this. Now I want to do that. I want to get up. These tournament structure sheets are there for information, but also as a means of control. And you don't even have to think about what's going to happen. Things just happen for you in terms of the structure and in terms of what your day-to-day will look like per hour, per half hour, per 15 minutes. Doesn't work for a lot of people. A lot of people like cash games. A lot of people don't like tournaments. A lot of people don't like to be told what to do. They don't want to be dictated as to how they play or when their breaks are or when they can get up and leave. But tournaments just do it for me. So another great structure here from the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. They are also live streaming. That's the one thing I should mention about Palm Beach Kennel Club on top of all of the other stuff. If I can bring up their structure sheet again, they live stream pretty much every tournament that happens in their second floor. They have a little live stream table. I've played on it on a few occasions, and it's cool. You get to see your opponent's hole cards. If you view the video, you can share with your family and friends, hey, I'm on the live stream. I'm going to be famous. Wink, wink. It's a great feature. The Seminole Hard Rock has started to do that with some of their tournaments as well. They are also live streaming. And they have that written out here in the rules. I know you can't read that here on the screen, but it is part of their structure sheet. You can see that they're live streaming. And go to their website if you want to learn more about their tournaments. And how they run their games. The other example I wanted to show is the World Series of Poker main event, the tournament that I hope to one day play in If anybody has $10,000, please let me know. I have a way for you to invest that money, and it's in the main event of the World Series of Poker. $10,000 buy-in. I don't believe that the World Series displays or talks about their guarantee. I know that they've mentioned guarantees. I know that they've mentioned a $10 million or a $15 million guaranteed prize pool. That can't be right because the winner will get 10 million. So it's a lot more than that. Maybe it's 100 million. I don't know what their prize pool guarantee is. I don't think that they know either. Otherwise, they would have listed it, but it doesn't matter. It's the World Series of Poker main event. Everybody knows it. That's in poker. $10,000 buy-in. First place is good. Nowadays is around 8 to 10 to 12 million. 60,000 starting chips for the main event. 120-minute levels. That's a 2-hour level per level, 2 hours per level. Oh, please let me play in this event because I would just probably sit there. And yeah, 2-hour level, 60,000 starting units, $10,000 buy-in tournament. The interesting thing with the main event, because it obviously is the granddaddy of them all, there are multiple day ones, which every tournament has. So here, the main event of last year, there were 4 day ones starting at 12 p.m., playing 5 levels, 20-minute breaks after every level, and a 75-minute dinner break after level 3, because, you are playing 2-hour levels, so 3 levels. If you start at 12, that means it's 6:30 or 6 o'clock already, 6:30, 6:40. So you get a 75-minute dinner break after level 3, and then a few more levels, and that's the end of your day 1. If you are lucky enough to advance and survive into day 2, if you've played day 1, A, B, or C, you will be playing on a specific day. And if you've played day 1D, so the first day, you will have your own day 2 by yourself with the other participants of day 1D. There are so many players that play the main event, and typically in tournaments, the last flight is the most has the most attendance. The most participants typically play on the last flight. We could talk about the reasons why that is on another episode. Because there are so many people, the main event just puts that on a separate day. So day 2 this is the only tournament that I've seen where there are separate day 2s, because there are so many players that want to play that last flight. But at the end of day 2, at the end of 5 more levels, if you're still alive and you still have chips, you bag your chips, everyone then comes back together for the first time. The entire tournament is in one room or one location on day 3. And this tournament just goes on and on and on. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Day 8 is now the final day. It used to be day 7. Now day 8 is the final day until the final table, I should say. Day 7 used to be the day where there was maybe 16 or 18 players left. Now that's day 8. Then day 9, they actually give you a day off. Day 10 is the final table. Day 11 is the final table with 4 or 3 or 5 players. I think it's 4 players. Last year when Daniel Weinman won it, I think the final table, or the final day rather, of the final table got down to the final 4 before he ultimately won, and he won 12 million. So what an event, what a structure. I am sure that there are players that play the main event who don't know how any of this works. So at least if you watch this episode, you'll at least have a smidgen of an idea of what you're in for. A lot of chips, a lot of time, a lot of play. Great job, World Series of Poker, for putting on this event every day and making it interesting and making it valuable. Hey, you are spending $10,000 to play in a poker tournament. You might as well give a lot of chips and a lot of time for you to play. How does this all compare to online play? Let's take a quick look here. Let's take a quick look at Ignition. I'm just going to click on an event here just to kind of give you an example. I actually want to do the Crazy Eights. Oh, yes, the famous, I don't know if it's famous. Maybe I'll make it famous here. The famous Crazy Eights tournament. It's called Crazy Eights for a reason. There's a theme. Here it's a $5,888 guaranteed tournament. Everything will be in eights. Late registration available until blind level 28. 28. Maybe I'll play this after after this episode, and maybe I'll stream some of it. It just started. So level 1, 5,100 blinds. You do start, if I scroll down here on Ignition, 88,888. 88,888 starting chips. Again, that's the theme. Level lengths, if we can scroll down a little bit, this will not be the final pay schedule. First place will not win $3,000 from a $15 buy-in. This updates dynamically as more and more players get into the tournament. But the betting structure is, again, following the theme of Crazy 8's, 8 minutes long. So when it says level 28, you might think, wow, I might be here for a long time. 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours. Well, probably 4 hours until you get to level 28. So you start at 51. There's a 20 chip ante for every tournament, or for this particular tournament. Some tournaments don't start the antes until later. And level lengths are 8 minutes. And level 29 is all the way at the 6,000, 12,000 limit with a 24 ante. One thing I'll mention that is the big difference between online tournaments and live tournaments. Live tournaments have pretty much, with the exception of some mixed games, pretty much have all gone to a big blind ante format. It used to be where every player would ante in every hand or ante up every hand. That took a long time. It led to confusion. The dealer would have to constantly check with every player. Did you put your ante in? Did you put your ante in? Did you put your ante in? No, I did. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. Oh, I paid already. It just caused a lot of confusion. There's a famous fight that has happened. There are probably a few famous fights that have happened over just the antes. So sometime, I want to say maybe 8 years ago, tournament directors said, you know what, a better idea is let's just have the big blind pay a second big blind, and let's count that as the ante. It has drastically improved tournament play. The game is faster. There's way less confusion about where the ante is or who's supposed to post it or who is paid and who hasn't paid. It's just a big blind. So when you're on the big blind, you pay 2 big blinds. You pay your big blind and then the ante for the entire table. It just works so much better. The game moves quicker. It's just more streamlined, much more efficient. Online, everything is automated. So you don't really have to worry about this player pay, that player pay. The system just does it for you. So they can do antes like they used to do back in the day, per player, per hand. And that's what this tournament does, and pretty much all of Ignition Poker and all of the other poker software sites do as well. That could be wrong. Maybe you'll let me know, hey, ACR does it this way or GG Poker does it that way. Well, on Ignition, which is where I play, the antes are pretty much taken out per player like they used to do old school, in the old school way of running poker tournaments. All right. That is my little dissertation there on tournament structure sheets. I highly recommend that you, as a poker player or an aspiring tournament player, take a look at it beforehand. Don't spend mental energy thinking about, oh, what is the structure? When do I get to have a break? Can I get some to eat? Figure all that stuff out in advance. It'll help you focus on what's most important, which is the game in front of you and your opponents and the situations and the scenarios that you will find while playing poker tournaments. Do not expend any mental energy that you do not have to, that you can just do in advance. So my name is Joe. Thanks very much for watching this episode. We'll see you next time with some actual poker here on Joe versus the Bots. Thank you.